Welcome to REM Reward, the podcast that explores the secrets of sleep and psychology. I'm your host, Ryan, and in each episode, we'll dive deep into the world of sleep and other topics such as mental well-being and personal growth. If you want to unlock your full potential and receive the rewards that come with understanding the power of sleep, you're in the right place. To discover more tips and insights on improving your sleep and overall well-being, visit our website and explore our other episodes at remreward.org. Hey everyone, today we're joined with Lauren Ziegler. Lauren Ziegler has first-hand experience with the exhausting cycle of sleepless nights and groggy mornings. For years, she's battled with sleep struggles, experiencing its impact on daily life. But Lauren's journey through sleepless nights has led her to provide a beacon of hope for others facing the same struggle. Now she's here to help you wake up feeling energized and ready to take on the day. Meet Lauren, a professional sleep coach who guides others in conquering sleepless nights. My first question is, what was like the turning point that made you want to help others in aspects of sleep and just life in general? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had maybe 10 years or more of a whole journey with having a lot of physical pain in my body. And I had been practicing mindfulness and yoga for many years as a way to try to understand my emotions and kind of control my emotions and feel better in my life and in my body. So I had been on this process for a while. And I was noticing that pain, emotional pain and physical pain, was getting in the way of good quality sleep. It would be the thing that would prevent me from getting into sleep and having a good restful night. So, and then there's that way that we feel when we don't get enough sleep that next day. And it's just, you all know that feeling. It can be
For
just
sure.
so terrible. And so I started to focus on that because it's a way that I've learned how to heal my own body and how to work with pain, how to work with discomfort, how to work with stress, and really get relief and get the rest that I need. So I became really passionate about helping other people do that. And then I get to work with people in a way that when it comes to sleep, we're there with what's going on in our life and what's going on in our minds and hearts. So it feels like an honor, like something really deep for me to get to connect with others about what's really going on for them and our shared humanity, and for me to help people in that way. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
believe it's not so simple as just get a better mattress or don't look at the
for
screen
sure.
before bed. There's something more, you know?
Yeah, I really love that story. It really has some meaning behind it. Yeah. And I guess my question again is like, what are some common misconceptions people have about sleep and sleep disorders that you've seen?
Yeah, I work with a lot of people as a sleep coach, and I see this come up in many different ways. The biggest one, I think, is that you should sleep through the night without waking up. So I hear a lot of people say, I woke up last night. Oh, it wasn't so good. But it's normal to wake up throughout the night. Sleep
Mhm.
is not just like an on and off switch. I think that's a huge
Right.
misconception. Like we just go out and then we're out, 8 hours later and
Right.
it's all deep sleep. But nobody does that. In a typical night, we wake up a couple of times, and we might even have nine awakenings by the time we get older, like age 70 and above. So a lot of the time we just don't know that we woke up and it just didn't register. But maybe if we went up and we got to the bathroom or something, then we're aware, we remember that awakening more.
Right.
But it's just not a problem, just so long as we can fall back asleep quickly.
Yeah,
So we go through these stages, and awakening throughout the night is part of the sleep stages. So that's a big one. I think that puts a lot of minds at peace just to know, like, oh, that's okay. Yeah.
sure.
And another one is that we can make up for lost sleep, like it's a bank or something. Like I didn't get enough sleep. I'll just sleep during the weekend and really put a lot in the bank. But we need 7 to 9 hours on average a night, and the body doesn't just get used to less sleep. And there are harmful effects with sleep deprivation on a regular basis. So it's each 24-hour period that we really need to try to give ourselves the sleep that we need as opposed to making up for it later. And then the final one is that snoring is harmless. This is so common, and occasional light snoring usually isn't a problem, but regular snoring may be a sign of sleep apnea. It
Mm.
also gets in the way of other people's sleep. So,
Yeah. And I guess another thing, like for our viewers, like, can you explain what sleep apnea is?
yeah, sleep apnea is a kind of respiratory medical sleep condition that is quite common. And It actually appears different in women and men. So it's
Really?
it's possible that anyone can have it. It's categorized by the kind of architecture of the mouth and kind of a collapsing in the back of the throat that creates that snoring sound
Mm.
where the brain isn't getting as much oxygen in those moments and we sort of stop breathing. And then there can be like a jarring back to awake, or there can be a snoring, and someone might know this is happening. They might not even know that it's happening. But if someone is snoring and then waking up without feeling rested every night, that could be that could be why. So there are sleep studies that are done to look into if that respiratory thing is going on for people.
Got it. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah. And then, so how does poor sleep impact our like day-to-day life beyond just like feeling tired?
Yeah, because we all know that feeling of just,
Yeah,
it's
for
difficult to
sure.
explain, but it feels like everything is affected. Just the way that we see the world and ourselves and everything.
Hmm.
So I find it interesting that judgment is impaired after one night of insufficient sleep. These are things that have been shown in studies. Willpower is low, so you do things more impulsively without thinking things through, whether it's choosing the foods that you're going to eat or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
Um, Being awake for more than 18 hours, the impairment is equal to the blood alcohol level of 0.05, which is like having 3 drinks in a couple of hours. So it can make people more reactive also to negative
Hmm.
emotions. And I think the biggest thing is not having emotional regulation. It plays a crucial role in our ability to regulate our emotions. So we can't function emotionally. We have emotional impulsivity, emotional expressiveness, and emotional intelligence are all affected by insufficient sleep. So even if sleep was restricted or deprived a little bit, someone's mood is going to be worse and their ability to regulate their emotions is going to be worse. And that's not because of a lack of trying, it's happening in the body. We just don't really stand a chance when we aren't well rested.
Right. Yeah, completely agree. And then yeah, bouncing off that, like how does I guess like anxiety and depression play a role in sleep quality? And I guess can you just talk about like the mental health connection to sleep in general?
Yeah. There is a bidirectional relationship between sleep and mental health. So, meaning that both impact each other and they go together. So, emotional events during our waking hours will affect our sleep, and the quality and the amount of sleep influences the way we react to these events. So it impacts our general well-being. These things go together. There is not one single mental health diagnosis that exists without a sleep disturbance. So when there is a struggle with mental health, there will be a struggle with sleep, and vice versa. So 83% of adults with depression may have at least one symptom of insomnia. As much as 91% of adults with PTSD have symptoms of insomnia.
Hmm.
And anxiety and sleep deprivation can be self-reinforcing. So they go together as a kind of a cycle to worry causes
Yeah.
poor sleep and then increases anxiety.
Yeah, definitely could see a cycle. Yeah. And then I guess briefly, like what role does like a diet and exercise play in sleep quality? Are there any like specific foods or activities that help or harm sleep?
There is a lot of stuff out there. I really love to focus not on the particular in the scope of my background as a certified yoga therapist and sleep coach. I don't get so much into specific foods and supplements, but I
Right.
really love to look at the rhythms of things. So there are two
Hmm.
main environmental cues that affect the body clock and that we can control. And the input of these two things will affect our sleep. So one is light and the other is the timing of meals. So I
Got
think
it.
the consistency of routine around meals is the most important thing. And then the light input that we get. For example, getting bright light in the morning will have a positive input on our sleep. So I think of it more as daily rhythms that it's important to look at.
Yeah. I like the idea of that daily rhythms. Yeah. And then I guess for someone maybe who's struggling with sleep, like what's your take on, I guess, like sleep aids like melatonin or prescription medications? Are they like good temporary fixes and can they be part of a long-term solution?
I really love this question because I think this is changing a lot in the medical field, and I've seen this in my own practice, as well as working with medical practitioners and clinics. They used to just prescribe sleeping pills as the first go-to. Now, I recommend avoiding sleeping pills over the counter and prescription unless they're part of a short term, and I mean like 1 week holistic
Mm,
plan that's combined with other solutions that are getting at the root cause. Um, Now it has changed because there is a method called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI, they've done a lot of research, and now it is the AASM recommended first line gold standard of treatment before medications. So the data has shown that CBTI has more lasting results over time compared to medication for insomnia. And then, of course, it doesn't have side effects, which is nice. And it also gives internal skills that you can use forever, so you're not reliant on a sleep aid. So there are downfalls to sleep meds. They can make sleep worse in the long run. They don't
hmm
address the root cause. We're 5 times more higher risk of memory and concentration problems when taking them. So there's an alternative now that many doctors are recommending. Also, melatonin. This is something that is so commonly taken, right?
For sure.
And it's just available like anywhere. I don't recommend taking it long term or for more than 2 months continuously. Just as needed for, again, part of a holistic plan. It can be helpful to reset the body clock, but it is a hormone, and we can't just buy other hormones over the counter. So it's kind of crazy, but it has become this nonchalant thing. So my opinion is don't take it unless you've consulted with your doctor and you have like a special plan and a case. It has been known to suppress the onset of puberty, so it could be problematic for children. But even for adults, it has impact on other hormonal systems in the body. So that's personally why I don't like using it. And if it works for you, great. Just consider what I'm saying in light of other things that you're doing and talk to your
hmm
healthcare professional. But I just wouldn't start by taking supplements. I would start by getting the daily rhythms like light and meals,
Right. Yeah.
and thinking about activity and behavioral things before
Yeah.
supplements.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I guess you probably just touched upon about that a little bit, but I guess like what small changes can people start making today to improve their sleep?
Yeah, I have a few recommendations there. Getting up at the same time. Again, this is the consistency of daily rhythms. I know that can be hard to do, especially if you love to sleep in when you can.
For
But
sure.
consistency is the key for training the body clock. Another thing is, so if you really want to work on your sleep, this is something to consider. And then another one is dimming the lights in the evening, um, eating dinner 3 hours before bedtime. The later you eat, the lighter the meal. And then another one that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think of is stop trying to sleep. Don't just lay there frustrated or watching something until you fall asleep. Just go to bed when you're sleepy, or you can induce the sleepy feeling by things like yoga nidra meditations, which is something I'll talk about later, and maybe sleep hypnosis. There are techniques to bring your system into the rest mode and to unwind from the day. Another thing is address stress during the day. Don't wait until bedtime. Notice the impact that alcohol could have on sleep. In general, if you struggle with building in regular habits, you're not alone. And what I would recommend is that you pick one of these tips and then decide how often you want to do it. So you may decide that it's 75% of the time or a few days a week. And it can be something that you try and then just start to build in. It doesn't have to be every single day. That can start to feel overwhelming. So just, I think, awareness of your sleep and then trying something and something new, and to keep trying it is key. So it's all about progress over perfection.
Yeah, I agree. I really love that point you made on not trying to sleep and just laying there frustrated. Yeah. So how do you approach someone, let's say who they tried everything and they still struggle to get a good night's sleep?
Well, CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, is very available in a lot of different contexts. There's free apps, there's online programs, in-person programs, one-on-one and in groups. So if you haven't tried that, it has a lot of the helpful principles baked into that method, and these principles have been studied and proven effective. They go beyond sleep hygiene. So I think a lot of, in my experience, when someone says they tried everything, they have Googled the tips. They know the to-dos and the don'ts, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and they have tried all of those things and it has not helped. But that's what we call sleep hygiene, like blackout blinds, the temperature in the room.
Mm.
And that's just not enough. It's not effective for long-term insomnia. So if someone has this list and they're like, okay, it's not all right to drink caffeine after 2, need to turn off all the screens. They can be doing a lot of effort around the sleep, which actually creates anxiety about sleep.
Right.
Um, so I think of sleep hygiene and all those do's and don'ts like dental hygiene. But when there's a problem with your sleep, when there's a problem with your teeth, you aren't just going to practice good dental hygiene. You need more than that. So sleep is like this. There are 5 main principles in CBTI, and these methods, one of them, for example, is cognitive restructuring, restructuring your thinking about sleep. So it can go really deep into what might be going on for you. And when you get these methods applied in a personalized way, then it really gets at what is causing this, really. And yeah, the majority of sleeplessness comes from the continued struggle with it. And I get that if someone is saying I've tried everything, and that point of just like there's nothing left to do, it can be something to consider is what's happening in the mind around sleep.
Yeah, I love that. And then I guess like jumping down here, like what are some of the most common causes of sleep issues that you've encountered in general? Yeah.
Well, a lot of the sleep issues that I encounter in my work, I would call hyperarousal, which is a nervous system that is in fight or flight really often. And it's revved up most of the day. People
Mm.
that are busy, that are stressed, that are go, go, go. Um, Even if they don't feel that like a frenetic kind of their system is revved up, and it's hard to just turn it off at night. But it does need to switch from the fight or flight to the rest mode in order for sleep to happen. So this is one of the main ways that I work with people on, and the main cause of sleep issues and many people is this hyperarousal of the nervous system, and it's just been like that for days or years or even a
Right.
lifetime. Another cause could be circadian rhythm is off, and then the third is medical root causes. So I have a team of sleep doctors and medical practitioners that I work with that people can go to, a doctor or a sleep study or specialist to explore the medical causes like sleep apnea and other um, sleep diagnosis. But then I tend to work with people on the mental, emotional, and behavioral side of things. And sometimes what's needed is some work on the circadian rhythm. But I would say like 98% of the people that I support are dealing with this hyperarousal of the nervous system. And that's because our chronic stimulation, I think, in today's modern
Right.
digital
Yeah.
age and anxiety.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Yeah, especially with digital age. Yeah. So how do you address the anxiety that builds up around sleep for those who are stuck in a cycle of sleeplessness?
Mhm. Well, it's such a cycle. Can imagine. And maybe you've had that experience, like you're in bed and you're trying to fall asleep. And we call it tired but wired. Like you're not sleepy, you're awake. Maybe you're
Right.
not
Yeah.
even aware of some stress, but you're just not sleeping. And you're restless in your body. Your body is feeling tense and fatigued. And your mind is perceiving this whole situation as terrible, like
For
this
sure.
is not good. So then these thoughts come like, if I don't get to sleep now, I'm going to be a mess tomorrow. I have that huge project or presentation, and a bunch of thoughts and emotions can tumble in and complicate the situation. Like, why is this happening? What's wrong with me? I can't handle this. And um, I should be able to do this, and all these things that our minds tell us, with the accompanying emotions like frustration and despair and anger. So, all of these thoughts and emotions carry an energetic charge, and it creates more tension and more restlessness in the body. So, now maybe you're tossing and turning and getting up and um, pacing or going to the kitchen. So, this is an example of the spiral. It's not helpful. Um, But if you experience that or you feel worry about your sleep, then you're not alone. It's sadly a really common issue. And it is stress and anxiety. And it just, all of this becomes amplified when we get into bed, I think, and the distractions of the
Yeah.
day start to fade away. So, sleep coaching can help someone that's stuck in the cycle to pinpoint changes that will make a difference in unexpected ways. A little one, for example, is like not picking up the phone during the night and looking at the time. That can rev up the thinking
Yeah.
about sleep, or helping someone change their or explore their relationship to sleep, the way that they think about it, and reduce the effort around sleep. It has to be this kind of like, whatever, dude, kind of mentality. Like you're just flip
Yeah.
flops on the beach, like whatever happens, it's cool. And it takes a little work to cultivate that mindset, especially if you've been struggling with it for a while.
Yeah, for sure. I love that point of mindset change, not taking it too seriously. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess you probably touched upon this a little bit. How do you like typically help people who come to you for help?
Yeah, I help people in a few different ways. One is through mindfulness and self compassion exercises that I share with people. The research has shown that these are effective at treating stress related experiences like anxiety and depression, two of the main conditions that aggravate sleep disturbance. And mindfulness and self compassion are skills for sleep, but they're also more than that. They can really quiet the war in our heads with a
Mhm.
practice of peace and learn how to kind of be with ourselves differently. Then I also will guide people through CBTI components that they can do so that it takes less time to fall asleep and they experience shorter awakenings throughout the night, and applying whichever ones are appropriate for that person. Out of the, I mentioned 5 principles of CBTI, applying the one that could help them the most. So those are behavioral things, sometimes the mental things, but um, I also specialize in yoga nidra, which is a really special form of meditation. It's called yoga nidra, which means yogic sleep. So it's a
Mm,
form of sleep meditation where you lie down and you listen to this guidance. And it's a systematic way of helping people relax in their body and in their mind. I love it also because it gives your mind something to do other than worrying about sleep or just
yeah.
going all over the place. And so you follow along and it takes you into a deep sleep state. So it helps people gain confidence in their ability to close their eyes, turn towards themselves at night, feel calm, and then bring themselves on purpose into the deepest sleep. And the other cool thing about this method that I do a lot with people is that practicing it for 30 minutes is the equivalent of 2.5 hours of sleep
Wow.
physiologically. So, yeah, even if someone isn't falling asleep right away, it takes a little while, or they don't by the end of the recording, they still know that, okay, I'm in this relaxed state right now. So I'm getting the healing benefits of sleep,
Yeah.
which is a huge peace of mind and sometimes enough to get people to that more casual, like, okay, it's okay. And then they actually
Yeah.
fall asleep.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And then yeah, can you just share like any success stories or examples of how your approach has transformed someone's sleep?
Yeah. Um, a client that I've worked with recently in sleep coaching, just after 2 sessions, we were working on that principle of mindfulness and how to really observe what's happening in the mind without judgment
Mm.
and allow what is there in the moment to be there. And it, after 2 sessions, he said to me, for the first time in 30 years, I fell asleep without any medication. And it's much better than the panic attacks that I was having as soon as I got into bed. So this stuff can be really powerful. It was just 2 sessions and no more medication, no more panic attacks. And it's still an ongoing process, but I thought those quick results were pretty amazing. I think also of a patient that I was working with that came to me through the medical clinic I'm teamed up with, and she was on sleeping pills for 20 years, but still struggling with her sleep. And then the
Wow.
doctor didn't want to give her those pills anymore, so she was sent to me. And she went from going, she was struggling for like 3 to 4 hours every night to fall asleep. And
Mhm.
she was in that frustrated kind of cycle of anxiety and anger about it all,
Right.
just wanting to give up, just like, this isn't working. And then she ended up, after the course of our work, falling asleep within 30 minutes. And as a bonus, she actually enjoyed that time. She started to really enjoy that yoga nidra meditation, that feeling of relaxation, and looking forward to that time. And then another
Yeah.
one I'm thinking of is a person who came to me through a psychologist. He was having a lot of nightmares every night for years, dreading going to sleep. Just even thinking about going to sleep was terrible. He would often have a nightcap, like some whiskey in the evening, and this idea of going to bed became a little bit more tolerable. But after working together, his nightmares stopped. He didn't have to have a nightcap. And he's also made some really inspiring life changes, like pursuing more things that he enjoys that make him happy and social connections. So those are some success stories.
Wow, I'm really happy to hear all about those, and that's really great to hear. And I guess for my last question, so I guess for reviewers, like what's one piece of advice you give to someone who's just starting their journey to better sleep?
It will be a journey where you encounter life skills that are really enhancing your way of being, your whole outlook on life and your relationships, and not just sleep. So, if you want to gain lifelong confidence in your ability to sleep, it probably won't be a quick fix. It will be a journey, but then the lessons and the things that you learn from deciding to work on your sleep will probably shape you into being a wiser, happier, healthier human.
Yeah, I really love that message. Well, I think those are all the questions I have for today. I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to talk about this. I'm sure our viewers are just as grateful as I am to have you on. I'll make sure to link everything down below. And again, thank you so much.
Sounds great. Yes, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for tuning into the REM Reward podcast. Before you go, we'd appreciate your support by subscribing, liking, and leaving your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for our next podcast, where we will be joined by a special guest speaker to explore even more about the fascinating world of sleep and psychology.